Many times while I am on my journey here. My name is Daryl Guberman. I'm the CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. We assist companies in consultation, manufacturing, quality. We also assist in certification and implementation of ISO certifications in all derivatives. We have over 40 plus years in quality, and that's aerospace, medical implants, materials, printing, and plastic distribution, where we dealt with all the industries. Yes, when I am doing this job that I do to try to save your lives, ladies and gentlemen, because I think twice about sitting on an aircraft that Boeing made. In fact, I'm thinking about contacting Airbus. Maybe they will pick me up and I could be their quality designate. Because right now, we've tried to get our Boeing stuff together. We sent them our resume. And I will say this to you, ladies and gentlemen. Dwight D. Eisenhower said a perfect thing for Daryl Guberman, and that was years ago, 70 plus. He said, "It is not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog." And that's a fact. We have Mr. Steve Mollenkopf and also Miss Stephanie Pope. Two people at Boeing who've been there too long. Well, this guy's been there since 2020, but she's been there for 29 years. Kept quiet about technologies, kept quiet about quality. And where was she and other vice presidents? Why didn't they open their mouth? You know why? They're collecting a paycheck, and that's it. They don't roll up their sleeves, go down on the floor, from what I've gathered, because I do know some employees, several, more than several. Being in aerospace myself, we know a lot. We dealt with Boeing on the X-Wing project at Sikorsky Aircraft. We dealt with a lot of Boeing engineers when Boeing was still a good company. Now it hires the same old sog and pants. And this video today is about if Boeing doesn't call upon quality expert Daryl Guberman, disaster will plague them. And the final thing I'm going to say before I go into this video is that David Foster Wallace said that the truth will set you free, but not until it is finished with you. And by the way, Steve and Stephanie, the truth has already begun to unravel this mess. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm about to show you is this. And by the way, Steve is the former CEO at Qualcomm. They were an ANSI ANAB member during the time when Communist China was handling them because they were an ANSI member, and ANSI and ANAB sat on the IAF at that time. Zhao Jinwu, you will see him, okay? And he, many discrepancies at Qualcomm. We have all the data. He basically had an issue with a cell phone chip that was put in there. They had to do a fix for it. So he basically put a defective material into a phone, and then they came out with a fix. Too bad they can't do that for Boeing. When they popped, the Alaska airline had a door that popped. Let's continue. You have ANSI. ANSI is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation, and it has both federal agencies and corporations on board. It's been around for almost 100 years. You have Randy Doherty. Okay, Randy Doherty in 2015 handed over leadership to this Communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who's been involved with our quality since 1994. He is also at the time the executive of the China National the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China. And he's also mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take our data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. Here is Zhao Jinwu. We're not going to elaborate, but they certified the lab in Wuhan, China. And it's definitive that more than likely than not, that virus escaped from that lab because the scientists there complained to the scientists that went over from the United States in 2018. They needed trained technicians. In a CDC document in 2009 of May, it stated the most integral part of any well-run lab is to have highly trained technicians because that is the first containment, to not let the contagion out the door. So they didn't have it. So he basically gave a certificate that was fraudulent. Fraudulent, yes, because once they attributed that the virus escaped, and then you have Pamela Sale, the vice president of accreditation, give a deposition in 2018, state under deposition, she said, under sworn statement, that from one laboratory to another, there are variances, no protocols. And here she is. I'm not going to read it to you, but here she is with the deposition. Just stop the video, look at it, And let's continue on. It also says that a major majority of rejections or scandals are in accredited laboratories. Nice. The fact that you have ANAB sitting on ANSI's board and vice versa. In 2018, ANSI took over complete control over ANAB. And also, during the time when Zhao Junwu was watching over them, you have ANSI and ANAB sitting on the IF with their federal agencies and corporations. And I have to laugh when Christopher Wray gives a deposition, the director of the FBI. We must maintain vigilance over China yet between 2015 and 21 because of his membership, FBI membership on ANSI. He got his data taken. Isn't that a tender moment? There are over 10 different registrars in China that can issue an ANAB accredited certification. The IAF and ILAC are sister organizations. The International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation is in Australia, and the IAF, the International Accreditation Forum, is in Delaware as a repository for both national and international accreditation bodies. They are sister organizations. One of the things is that ANSI is a founding partner or founding member of the IAF. So no wonder why they're underwriters, meaning that ANSI and ANAB take full legal responsibility of this mess. If there's an issue like the door popping off, hey lawyers, if you're listening to me, I'll be your expert witness and show you without a shadow of a doubt that ANSI and ANAB are part and parcel of the lawsuit. You have Boeing. Boeing sits on the ANSI's board. They not only sit on the board, but they also sit as a board of director member guiding the company and also on the board that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. We're going to show that to you very shortly. But here's ANAB getting shoved down the throats of their suppliers. In fact, they are breaking the Sherman-Clayton Act with my business between 2012 and on up. We were open from 2011 to present, it's 13 years. But for almost 12 years, they were closing me out, breaking the Sherman Act, and we're going to show you how. Well, let me break it down for you. The first item of business, breaking it down, is this supplier bulletin that came out in 2002, which stated, and I'm not going to read it to you, I'm just going to show it to you, give you an example. It said that if you have your AS9100 for aerospace, as long as it is ANSI ANAB accredited, because Boeing sits on the board, that's number 2 for constriction of trade, for anti-competitive activities, and this is going to be a monopoly too. So the Sherman-Clayton Act has been busted open by them with my company. So they said, send in the certificate, ANSI ANAB accredited, AS9100, send in your parts, and Boeing doesn't have to do an on-site audit. That's what that supplier bulletin says, 2002. Another item is in 2009, Boeing was made an FAA regulator. Let me read it to you so you can get the full grip of this. The FAA increased the authority of Boeing's Commercial Airplanes division to self-certify its own aircraft. What does self-certify mean, ladies and gentlemen? That means they are the FAA. Not only that, it goes even further. This tells you about the MCAS system. They didn't have to tell the FAA about the MCAS system. I read a letter to Schumer and all the rest of this and please, my heart goes out to Ethiopian Air and Indonesian Air, but it was from the families, I think, of Ethiopian Air. And they said, Boeing hoodwinked the FAA. They don't even know. Their lawyers were so inept that they didn't know. They didn't have Daryl Guberman. That's a problem. Is that Boeing was made an FAA regulator in 2009. Okay? And they said that Boeing was hoodwinking the FAA. No, they are the FAA. Ladies and gentlemen of those poor passengers of the Ethiopian and Indonesian Air, Boeing, 2009 to present, is the FAA. So we continue on. Authority extended to Boeing under the new system allows Boeing employees to perform tasks on behalf of the FAA that include oversight of testing and product standards, along with certification of aircraft technologies, that's talking about the MCAS, and new aircraft designs. On their supplier portal, here's number 3. On their supplier portal, it calls for ANSI ANAB. So let's show you constriction of trade, ladies and gentlemen, if we may. And also, here we go, we got to show this to you too. This is the board, one of the boards. They're also on the board of directors. Management System Accreditation Council, or committee, has Boeing on board that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. So let's go through this, okay? You have the supplier bulletin. That's one constriction. Number 2 is a supplier portal calling for ANSI ANAB. Bulletin calls for ANSI ANAB. And then progressive resistance is that they sit on the board in controlling it with a grant, suspend, and withdraw certification, constricting it, not allowing me to get ahead, not allowing me to participate in the certification process because I'm not ANSI ANAB accredited, nor would I be, as I showed you, 2015. ANSI and ANAB sat on the IAF while their communist Chinese nationals sat there between 2015 and 21. They're an FAA regulator. They were caught fudging documentation during 2017, and most recently in their composite facility in Pennsylvania, their Boeing Bell composite facility, they got caught doing the same thing from 2007 to 2018, 11 years. Isn't that a tender moment? $8.1 million DOJ. You have the FAA sitting on their board. FAA, and remember what I showed you, how can one regulator watch over another regulator? From 2009 they were. So how does one regulator watch it over another? You can't. You have the FTC. FTC, where they said, I talked to a guy, Alan Friedman, who works there. He said, Daryl, we handle over 10,000 complaints a week. There's only 4 people in the office. That's what he said back about 10 years ago. Who knows? You have the Department of Defense. You have the FBI. You have the U.S. Department of Transportation. And now here you go, the Department of Justice. I'm going to leave it here, ladies and gentlemen. I think I gave you enough information. Remember this: if Boeing does not call upon Daryl Guberman, disaster will plague them. And I promise you that. I almost guarantee it. Because, as Confucius says once again, and I repeat it again and again, it is not the droplet of water that wears away the mighty stone, but it is its persistence. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, DARYL, TQRS at yahoo.com. I thank you.